Today we celebrate the feast of Epiphany, and the beginning of Christianity. The feast of Epiphany used to be greater than the feast of the Nativity of our Lord. So basically, we put together three different feasts. The first one is the first miracle of our Lord in the wedding at Cana. Then the baptism of our Lord and the feast of Epiphany. Now we have in the gospel three different kinds of people, three different groups, and we must identify ourselves with one of these groups. No one can say, I don't belong to any of them, because you do. Now, what is it that makes these three groups different from each other? Well, basically, what makes them different is the truth that they follow or the truth that they obey. So all we need to do is to ask ourselves, what truth do I obey, or whom do I obey? Let me explain. First of all, we have the Magi, or the three kings, because they were kings or doctors or scientists, priests, all of these things together. One day, when they were studying the heavens, they found, or they discovered, what is it that God wanted them to do by simply, working on what they were doing. It was their work that led them to understand everything. So this idea of, that there must be a separation between science and religion is just a very stupid thing nowadays. Most scientists should become Catholic, or there are many scientists that are Catholics. We don't know them because they don't, they are not part of the television industry. But many of them are Catholics. So they analyze the heavens, the sky, and they discover this star, and they follow the star. They, at the beginning, believed that it was going to take them only a couple of days to get to the indicated region. But no. Some people say that it took them 3 months or 7 months and so forth. Once they enter Jerusalem, they lose sight of the star. See? Now, they should have been tempted by seeing the entire city, the magnificent temple, the house, the palace of the king, all of these things. But the thing is that they simply interrupt the quietness of the city of Jerusalem. And everyone got out of the house, and they saw this, such amount of people in camels, horses, all of these things. And the kings didn't hesitate to let everybody else know what they were looking for. They didn't say, what are they going to think if we tell them that we're looking for Christ? So they explain everything. The Jews say, well, we haven't heard anything. Last night someone mentioned that an angel had appeared to these shepherds. But that happens all the time. We are not doing anything. Then the king heard about it, and then moved and controlled by his passions, he says, well, I cannot allow this to happen. We only have a king, and that king is me. See? Then, after a little investigation that King Herod realized, the kings left the city of Jerusalem, and they saw the star again, followed the star, went to Bethlehem, and found our Lord and adored him. So, now, we must belong to one of these three different kinds of people. Either we might see ourselves among the Jews, or among the King Herods. So we have many kings that imitate Herod in many different ways. I mean, any one of us can become another King Herod. Or the three kings, the wise men. So we must belong to one of these three groups. The Jews, they knew everything. They knew everything. But they didn't do anything. They knew the truth. They didn't benefit from the truth. So that's a state of our spiritual life. Indifference or lukewarmness, as we tepidity, as we know it. I mean, not having the desire for things spiritual, not fulfilling our daily duties. Once that happens, we have that illness of being lukewarm in our spiritual life. Now, nowadays, the great majority of Catholics have this illness. So, I mean, even the church herself has contributed for them to have this illness. So that's the first group. They didn't want to do anything. They remained at home, and that was it. Then we have King Herod. He was not a Jew, and he didn't have any religion. I mean, the times he went to Rome, he adored Jupiter. So the times he went to Jerusalem, he entered the temple, and he adored God. I mean, he had a God depending on how convenient it was for him to have a God. So, but basically, he was a man controlled by his passions. I mean, he had children, 3 children. The 2 older ones he sent to Rome to study. Then they came back, and he heard that his sons wanted to overtake his throne. And he said, "This is not good for me." So he killed his sons. So, then later on, some things that he heard about his wife, whom he loved so much, and he killed his wife. Then the turn came for his mother-in-law, then his brother-in-law, and things like that. That's how he went all the way up to the top in his kingdom. So that's King Herod. He didn't do anything to control his passions, and his passions to control him, and he saw everything through his passions. So we can see what is it that uncontrolled passion can do in one person. Then we have the Magi, or the wise men. They see the star. St. Thomas Aquinas says, a star is an inspiration to the heart. So, the wise men saw the star, the inspiration. They studied it. They resolved to walk, to do something about it. They left everything and went. It was a long way and a trying road, but at the end they found what they were looking for. So, as those always found who in humility and docility look for God. Now, the first thing we understand is that grace Grace has its hour. You lose that opportunity, you lose it forever. I mean, to hesitate. If you see a star, if you hesitate, you commit sin. Sin. How many people say, well, next year I will think about this. Next year I'm going to pray more. Next year I'm going to stop saying, bad words and things like that. Do you think that your conversion could take place too soon? So, who has promised you another day or another week? So grace has its hour. You must accept the grace that is offered to you. And that's it. Now, you have seen more than one star in your life. You have received so many inspirations. Last time you went to the hospital, last time you had an accident, last time you heard a good sermon, last time you went to a retreat. Those have been inspirations to your heart. So, the first Christians, the beginning of Christianity, were known as the people of the way. Those who are on the way. And that's basically what constitutes our identity. People who are always walking, following an inspiration. So, now, what are the obstacles then for us to imitate or to belong to the group of the three kings? The first obstacle, is the world. So, what are they going to say if I say grace before I eat at work? What are they going to say if I go to church every Sunday? So what are they going to say if I behave like a human being? So, what if they found out that I believe in God? See, we please the world so much. Think of the amount of money, time, effort you spent pretending to please the world. The world is typified by the Jews. What was the end of the Jews? Well, the year 70 came and the entire city was seized by the Romans. And months went by, they didn't have anything to eat or to drink, and mothers started killing their babies to eat them. That was the end of indifference. Jerusalem had its hour, didn't take advantage of it. What was the end of King Herod? It took him 2 years to die. When he died, was not the king that he was 2 years before. 2 years before, he had all his body, because he died by chapters, little by little. Worms were eating his body. People would find pieces of his flesh around the palace. He went to hell before he died, in other words, as it happens to many people nowadays. What was the end of the three kings? Well, they found our Lord and they adored him and offered him gifts. And we want to be part of this group. We want to be part of this group. So it would be important for us to simply meditate, on how much our intention to please the world is, how big it is in ourselves. Why don't we follow the inspiration? Why don't we follow God's grace? Why is it that I don't follow God's commandments? Because am I afraid of, being seen as believing in God in this corrupt culture? So the first thing would be to work on getting rid of this idea of pretending to please the world. So that's the first thing. Second thing would be to simply free yourself from this imposition that your passions have over you. See? Or your self-love. We don't know when is it that we are feeding or nourishing our self-love. When you eat only those things that you like to eat, you're nourishing your self-love. When you talk to people, those who you find pleasing, when you select those things that you want to do, you are pleasing your self-love, nourishing it. And then at the end, your self-love controls everything, as it happens to King Herod. So we must have a certain amount of freedom to live everything in its proper place. The world is what the world is, no matter what happens. Whatever God thinks of the world, that's what the world is. Nothing more, nothing less. That's how we should see the world. See? So, today, as we welcome our Lord in our souls in Holy Communion, just tell Him, I want to adore you. I want to be king of my entire being, of my desires, of my affections, of my dreams, of everything that I do. Give Him more freedom in your life. See? So, we can say that Jesus continues to be treated in the Blessed Sacrament the same way He was treated then. The way He was treated by the Jews, the way He was treated by King Herod, and the way He was adored by the three wise men. Make sure that we love Him, that we adore Him, that we show Him honor, respect. So, nowadays, many Catholics in many churches, it seems to me that they have the right to offend God present in the Blessed Sacrament. Think of the ways there is a Holy Communion. Not only instead of mortal sin, but on the hand, or grabbing it from the priests, things like that. That is not everything. It's not everything. So we want to adore Him today for those who do not love Him, especially in the Blessed Sacrament. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.